What you are about to hear has the power to completely change the way you understand the world. And more importantly, how you understand yourself. I want you to pause for a moment, take a deep breath, and observe everything around you. Look at the objects, the textures, the colors. Everything seems so solid, so real, so unchanging. Now, I want you to imagine just for an instant that what you see is not everything, that behind every shape, every shadow, and every light, there is something more, something that has always been there, yet you have never noticed before. How would your life change if you could see it? Think about this. How many times have you walked through a familiar place, maybe the same street, the same park, without noticing anything special? But one day, something changes. Maybe it's the light, maybe it's your mood, or maybe you just pause a little longer than usual. And suddenly, you notice details that had always been invisible, the texture of the trees, the patterns on the ground, the sounds that were always there but are only now calling your attention. That place didn't change. You changed. Your way of seeing it changed. This is exactly what happens when you begin to open yourself to a new way of thinking. Throughout your life, you have been conditioned to believe that reality is what you can touch, measure, and see. But what about everything that isn't visible? What about emotions, subtle connections, and those fleeting intuitions that appear at the edge of your mind before vanishing? Thinking in 4 dimensions is not about calculations or solving abstract equations. It is about learning to see beyond the surface, to perceive what has always been there but has gone unnoticed until now. Imagine a room full of mirrors. Everything around you seems clear, tangible. But what you don't realize is that behind those reflections, there are doors you have never dared open. Thinking in 4 dimensions is like discovering those doors. It doesn't mean you stop seeing the mirrors. It means you start noticing that there is something beyond them, something that gives meaning to what you see, but that you have never explored because you were trapped on the surface. Now, ask yourself this. What aspect of your life have you assumed to be static, unchangeable, without realizing that something more is waiting behind them? Perhaps it's your relationships, your thoughts, or even your perception of yourself. We have learned to live in a limited plane, relying only on what is visible, on what seems obvious. But true transformation begins when you realize that what you see is not everything. Think of a sunset. At first, you see the bright colors of the sky, the clouds illuminated by the fading light. But if you stay a little longer, when the sun disappears and darkness begins to settle in, you start to notice the stars. The stars were always there, but they only became visible once the light faded. Your life is like that sky. The visible is just a light covering something deeper, something more vast, something you can only discover if you have the patience and courage to stay a little longer. But here's the catch. The visible world is comfortable. It is familiar. Everything seems under control because you can measure it, touch it. So why complicate things by searching for something you cannot immediately see? Because in that search lies the key to understanding yourself and the world in a completely new way. The visible is only a small part of a much greater reality. And the sooner you dare to look beyond, the sooner you will begin to notice the invisible connections that shape your life. Imagine standing in front of a completely still lake. From the shore, everything seems calm, unchanging. But if you throw a small stone, something changes. The ripples that form on the surface don't just affect what you see. They travel into the depths, touching things beyond your visual reach. The same happens in your life. Every thought, every emotion, every decision creates ripples that resonate in dimensions you cannot see, yet they have a real impact on your life and the lives of others. We often live so trapped in our routines that we forget to stop and observe. We believe that everything that matters is right in front of us, within reach. But what if I told you that the most important, the most meaningful things are not in what you can touch or measure? That the answers you seek are not in the external world, but in those invisible dimensions waiting for you to dare to explore? The first step to seeing the invisible is learning to question what you take for granted. Think of a sheet of paper. If you look at it from only one angle, it seems flat, limited to 2 dimensions. But when you rotate it, when you change your perspective, you begin to notice that it has depth, that it occupies a space you hadn't considered before. Your perception of life works the same way. As long as you keep looking from the same angle, you will keep seeing the same things. But the moment you change your perspective, everything begins to transform. This is not about adding something new to your life. You don't need more information or more things to do. What you need is to learn to look differently. Because when you change the way you see, everything you see changes with you. The things that once seemed insignificant take on meaning. The details you used to overlook become signals, guides, showing you a path you never noticed before. The world is not a static place. It is a living, dynamic tapestry, full of invisible connections constantly shaping your experience. But to notice those connections, you must learn to pause, to observe, to listen to what lies beyond the noise. It is in those moments of stillness that you begin to perceive what has always been there, but that you could not see before. Take a moment to reflect on your life. What have you assumed to be true, to be unchangeable? Perhaps it's a belief about who you are, what you can achieve, or even what you deserve. But what if those beliefs were nothing more than shadows cast by something deeper? What if you allowed yourself to question them, to look beyond them? Seeing the invisible is not magic or a trick. It is a process of openness, of willingness to look at the world and yourself from a place of curiosity, humility, and wonder. It is understanding that you don't have all the answers, but you are willing to explore the questions. Because it is in those questions where true transformation begins. In the end, the reality you see is not a limitation. It is an invitation, a door that has always been open, waiting for you to dare to step through. The question is not whether you are ready to see the invisible. The real question is, do you have the courage to look? Lo que antes te parecía adorador ese convierte en una fuente de fortaleza y claridad. Imagine una noche estrellada, cuando alzas la vista al cielo, todo parece oscuro, inmenso, infinito. Sin embargo, cuanto más tiempo pasas observando, más estrellas comienzas a distinguir. Lo que al principio parecía solo penumbra se transforma en un mapa repleto de luces, de connections, de posibilidades. Tu sombra funciona de la misma manera. Al principio, puede parecer abrumadora, pero cuando más la exploras, más comprendes que esta línea de señales, de respuestas que no podrías encontrar en ningún otro lugar. El preciso de enfrentar tu sombra no es lineal, and hay algo que puedas completar en un solo intento. Es un trayecto constante, una danza entre la luz y la oscuridad que require paciencia, compasión y sobritud disposición. Cada vez que te atreves a mirar, aprendes algo nuevo. Descubres una parte de ti que antes habías ignorado y, con cada hallazgo, te sientes un poco más íntegro, un poco más en paz contigo mismo. Quiero que reflexiones sobre esto. ¿Cuántas veces has sentido que algo te frena? ¿Que hay una barrera invisible que no logras atravesar? Esa barrera no está afuera, sino dentro de ti. Es el temor lo que podrías encontrar si miras demasiado de cerca, si te cuestionas demasiado. Pero ese miedo no tiene por qué paralizarte. Puede ser el impulso que necesitas para dar el primer paso, para abrir la puerta y descubrir que hay otro lado. No hay nada en tu sombra que no puedas afrontar. Todo lo que encuentras en ella es parte de ti, y como tal, tiene un propósito. Lo que te limita no es lo que es en la sombra, sino tu resistencia a mirarlo y aceptarlo. Sin embargo, cuando te atreves a hacerlo, te das cuenta de que no estás solo. Cada fragmento de ti, incluso aquellos que has intentado negar, espera ser reconocido, aceptado y integrado. Este no es un preciso con un final definido. No hay un punto en el que puedas decar. Y enfrentado toda mi sombra y determin, porque siempre habrá más por descubrir, más por similar. Pero esto no debería desmotivarte, sino inspirarte, porque significa que siempre estás creciendo, aprendiendo y transformando. Pensa en 4 dimensiones implica comprender que no hay nada en tu interior demasiado grande o demasiado oscuro como para que no puedas enfrentarlo. Significa reconocer que la verdad o luz no es aquella que evita las sombras, sino la que las ilumina, las hace visibles y las convierte en parte de algo más grande. Y en ese preciso. Descubres que tú mismo eres más vasto, más fuerte y más completo de lo que alguna vez imaginaste. Quiero dejar con esta reflexión. To do lo que es evitado mirar, to do lo que es relegado a la sombra, esta hay no para dinert, sino para impulsar, no para asustar, sino para mostrar que eres capaz, lo que puedes transformar, en lo que puedes convertir. La pregunta no es si estás listo para mirar dentro de ti. La verdadera cuestión es, ¿tienes el valor de hacerlo? Porque cuando lo haces, no solo descubres quién eres realmente, sino que comprendes que siempre debes la capacidad de verlo. De tal momento y piensa en todas esas cosas que persigues con tan intensidad, en aquello que te obsesiona alcanzar, en esas metas que parecen definir tu valor. Ahora, imagina que cuanto más te aferras a ese deseo, cuanto más te esfuerzas por obtenerlo, más te parece. ¿Por qué ocurre esto? Porque aquello que anhelas tanto parece alejarse en el instante en que lo conviertes en el centro de tu mundo. Y es fácil creer que si lo intentemos con más empeño, si somos más persistentes, tarde o temprano lograremos lo que queremos. Nos han enseñado a luchar, a no rendirnos, a enfocar toda nuestra energía en un objetivo. Sin embargo, aunque esta forma de pensar parece lógica, a menudo nos desgasta y nos aleja de lo que realmente decimos. Sin darnos cuenta, el acto de aferrarnos con tanta fuerza genera resistencia. Y es como intentar retener agua entre los dedos. Cuanto más aprietas, más rápido es escurrir. Imagina que estás en un río con una corriente fuerte. En tu intento de mantener float, te aferras a una roca. Tus músculos se tensan, el agua golpea con fuerza tu cuerpo y sientes que no podrás sostener mucho más. Pero, ¿qué sucedería si soltaras la roca? Tal vez, en lugar de luchar contra la corriente, podrías permitir que el agua te eleve. Quizás descubrirías que el río no intenta hundir, sino guiarte hacia un lugar al que no puedes llegar mientras sigues aferrado. El apego funciona de la misma manera. Nos hace creer que si soltamos, perderemos el control, que de do ese desmoronará. Pero, en realidad, el control que intentas ejercer sobre la vida es una ilusión. La vida no es algo que puedas manipular o dominar, es algo que ocurre, que fluye. Y tu papel no es controlarla, sino aprender a mover con ella. Solta no significa renunciar a tus sueños o metas. Significa dejar de intentar forzarlas, de obsesionar con el resultado y confiar en que lo que es para ti llegará en el momento y la forma adecuados. Cuando piensas en 4 dimensiones, comprendes que aferrar con tan intensidad a algo crea un desequilibrio interno. Y es como si le dijeras al universo, esto es lo único que importa. Sin esto no soy suficiente, no soy feliz. Y esa energía de carencia y necesidad se convierte en un obstáculo. Cuanto más necesitas algo, más impides que llegue a ti. Sin dar cuenta, estás enviando un mensaje de resistencia, de miedo, y esa energía se refleja en tu realidad. Imagina que estás cultivando un jardín. Plantas una semilla y, cada día, te sientas frente a él esperando que crezca. La observas con ansiedad, preocupado por ese brotar o no, y de vez en cuando cavas la tierra para asegurarte que siga ahí. Este afán control, de no permitir su propio ritmo, en realidad impide su desarrollo. Lo mismo ocurre con tus deseos. Una vez que es planado la semilla, debes confiar en que la tierra, el agua y el tiempo harán su trabajo. No puedes forzar preciso, pero si puedes cuidarlo, nutrirlo y esperar con paciencia. El arte de soltar es uno de los actos más desafiantes y transformadores que puedes aprender, porque viene en contra de lo que nos han enseñado. Soltar requiere confiar en lo invisible, en lo que no puedes controlar. Requiere entregar al flujo de la vida con la certeza de que lo que es para ti llegará, y lo que no, es ira. Esta confianza no es posibilidad. Sino un acto profundo de sabiduría. The connection con algo más grande que tú. Quiero que reflexión sobre esto. Cuántas veces es nada duque. Cuando dejas de esforzar tanto, las cosas comienzan a flor con mer naturalidad. Quizás estabas buscando desesperadamente una respuesta, pero fue en un momento en que dejaste de buscar cuando apareció. Esto no es casualidad, y es la paradoja del desapego, aquello que persigues con desesperación tiende a alejarse, mientras que lo que dejas de necesitar con urgencia comienza a acercarse. Pero no te equivoques, solta no significa dejar de dir en ironders. Significa liberar la necesidad de controlar el cómo y el cuándo de lo que quieres. Y es aprender a sostener tu visión con ligereza. Como si tuvieras una pluma en la palma de la mano. La pluma está ahí, presente, pero no necesitas apretarla para que no se vaya. Simplemente la sostienes, la observas, la aprecias y confías. I want you to ask yourself something. What are you holding on to right now? Perhaps it's a relationship, a goal, an idea of how your life should be. Maybe it's an image of yourself that you don't want to let go of. Whatever it is, ask yourself, what would happen if you released it? Not as an act of surrender, but as an act of trust. What could you gain by letting go of the fear of losing? Often, what we fear losing the most is what needs transformation the most. That job, that relationship, that expectation you've been carrying for so long may be asking to be released. Not because it's not valuable, but because it is taking up space that could be filled with something even more meaningful. Letting go is not an act of weakness. It is an act of strength, wisdom, and connection with yourself and the natural flow of life. In the end, detachment is not a final destination, but an ongoing practice, a way of living that frees you from the weight of expectations and allows you to be present in every moment. Because when you release, you don't just free what you were holding on to, you also free yourself. The art of letting go teaches you that you don't need to struggle to make things happen. Sometimes, all you need is to trust that the universe knows what it's doing. And when you do, you realize that life isn't something you need to control. It's something you need to experience. Sometimes, the things that impact our lives the most seem small, almost insignificant. A chance encounter, a brief conversation, a fleeting thought. What happens when you allow yourself to notice those moments and explore them beyond the obvious? There is something magical in realizing that what we call coincidences are not mere accidents. They are reflections of something greater, invisible threads that connect events, people, and emotions. Perhaps you felt more than once that something simply clicked, that a situation or a person arrived in your life at the exact right moment. These experiences, far from being random, are reminders that you are not disconnected from the reality around you. What we call synchronicities are signals, echoes that arise from the relationship between your thoughts, your intentions, and the flow of the universe. We often live so trapped in routine that we ignore these connections. We cling to a linear idea of control, believing that everything that happens is exclusively the result of our conscious decisions. But what if it weren't? What if the pieces that align were a response to something beyond what you can measure with your senses? What if you understood that your thoughts are not just impulses in your mind, but acts of creation that shape and transform the reality you experience? An event that seems coincidental can become a guide. That person you met by accident or that phrase someone spoke unintentionally may contain exactly what you needed to hear at that moment. But you can only recognize these patterns if you are open to perceiving them. Seeing the invisible is not just about looking with your eyes. It's about listening to what resonates within you. It's about trusting that part of yourself that knows there's a deeper order, even when the surface appears chaotic. When you walk in the present, when you align with what you truly want and feel, the world begins to reflect it. That is the key. It's not about controlling, but about synchronizing. When your intention, actions, and thoughts are in harmony, things flow in ways that seem impossible to plan. But it's not magic, it's connection. It's understanding that you are part of something much greater. Everything you need is here, waiting for you to notice it. The opportunities, the answers, the signs, they're not in some distant future. They are happening right now. But to see them, you must stop searching frantically. You must learn to be present, to trust that the universe reveals what you need at the exact moment you are ready to see it. Think about what is happening in your life right now. Perhaps there is something you haven't understood, something that seems to make no sense. But if you pause, if you breathe and observe with openness, you may discover that the chaos has a purpose. You may see that the pieces are already falling into place, even before you are fully aware of it. How many times have you felt that your life is full of noise? Not necessarily external noise, but that internal noise that never seems to stop. Thoughts, worries, memories, plans. Everything seems to happen at the same time, like a relentless torrent. But beneath that chaos, there is something you haven't yet heard, a deeper, wiser voice trying to reach you. That voice doesn't shout. It doesn't compete with the noise. It simply waits, in the silence, in the space between one thought and the next. Modern society seems designed to avoid silence. Distractions are everywhere, filling every moment that could be a pause, a breath. But that constant disconnection distances you from yourself. Every time you avoid silence, every time you fill that space with noise, you miss the opportunity to listen to what truly matters. There's a part of you that already knows the answers you seek, that understands what you need, but you cannot hear it when you are caught in the noise. It is in stillness that you begin to notice what you previously overlooked. That intuition that whispers when everything quiets down, that deep knowledge that does not come from logic, but from something more essential. It's not about seeking externally, asking for signs or answers from the outside world. It's about learning to listen within yourself. In those moments when the noise fades and silence becomes a mirror reflecting who you truly are. Think of a lake. When its surface is disturbed by the wind, you cannot see beyond it. But when the water calms, you can look into its depths, see what was always there, hidden beneath the ripples. Your mind works the same way. In the constant noise, the answers are there, but you cannot see them clearly. It is only in stillness that they reveal themselves, where the layers clear away and show you what once seemed invisible. Noise is not just external, the distractions around you. It is also internal. The stories you tell yourself, the beliefs you accepted without question, the emotions you suppressed because you didn't know how to face them. All that internal noise creates a filter between you and life, making you see only a limited version of what is actually happening. Freeing yourself from that noise is not easy. It requires stopping, looking within, and being willing to confront what you find there. It is natural to avoid silence. At first, it may feel uncomfortable, even intimidating, because silence confronts you with your deepest thoughts, your doubts, and emotions you have tried to ignore. But when you stay with that silence, when you allow yourself to feel it instead of running from it, you start to notice something surprising. What seemed empty is full of meaning. What seemed chaotic begins to organize itself. And what you couldn't understand before becomes clear. Life has no rush. The world moves forward regardless of how much you hurry or try to force things. The moment you pause, the moment you choose to create a space of stillness, you begin to move at a more natural rhythm. And in that rhythm, everything aligns. The true connection with yourself does not happen in noise, but in silence. That space is where you find your strength, your clarity, your purpose. When you begin to tune into that inner space, you also start to notice how external noise affects you. Distractions, constant demands, even the opinions of others lose their power over you because you no longer need to search outside for what you found within. Silence is not something to fear. It is a gift, a gateway to a deeper understanding of yourself and the world. But to receive it, you must be willing to enter it, to stay there, even if it feels uncomfortable at first. What noise are you allowing into your life that keeps you from that connection with yourself? Whatever its source, you can always choose to create a space of stillness, a moment where everything else pauses, so that you can listen to what truly matters.